Hey there. We're finally in the silly season, and if you're anywhere in the country currently experiencing this heat wave, we hope you're staying cool and hydrated. Speaking of cool, do you like your ice fancy? Then Woolworths has got you covered. Find out what people had to say about their private school ice. Meanwhile, our politics is anything but cool. The DA is pulling PR stunts over the BELA Bill, and President Cyril Ramaphosa is not pleased. Over in the land of the progressively less free and the home of the questionably brave, the incoming president has warned the BRICS countries to forget de-dollarisation, while the outgoing President Biden has pardoned his son, even after promising not to interfere. Back home, we look at snacks we've lost like Tempo and Maltabella. We also examine Minister Thembi Simalane's redeployment despite calls for her dismissal. Finally, we find God in the machine and explore how the normally sane South Korea was plunged into chaos this week after its president declared martial law for all of 6 hours. So, let's dive into your weekly update of empowering and easy to understand news, brought to you by myself, Varashni Pillay, and the Explain.co.za team. Some politics news to start you off. This past week, a very odd political wrangle took place over the contested Basic Education Law Amendment Act, or BELA. We've told you about the act before. It overhauls outdated aspects of the education system. However, two contested clauses concerning language and school governing bodies' powers have been put on pause until the 31st of December. Critics of the two clauses, mostly Afrikaans rights organizations and the DA, whose minister heads up basic education and boycotted this bill's signing, are scrambling to reach an agreement within the government of national unity before that deadline. Still, their latest attempt was more PR than a real political solution. As we told you last week, Basic Education Minister Siviwe Gwarube made quite the announcement saying she'd reach an agreement to delay implementation of the contested section till 2026, while certain standards and regulations were put in place. If true, it would have been an astounding victory. The trouble is, no one else got the memo. Gwarube said a settlement had been reached at the National Economic Development and Labour Council, aka NEDLAC, between her department and Afrikaans trade union Solidarity on Wednesday. However, NEDLAC is a forum to bring together all parties around a matter. In this case, only two were present, and crucially, no one else in the already divided GNU nor other trade unions representing more black teachers were present or even knew about this meeting. Shortly after the announcement broke, President Cyril Ramaphosa and his deputy Paul Mashatile refuted the development, noting that the GNU Clearinghouse, a mechanism where decisions about government are made, has the final say. Now, the DA, since joining Ramaphosa's cabinet, have been adept at using their ministries to announce quick wins. Gwarube and Solidarity's process at NEDLAC may have been aimed at a quick win, but it appears to be dead in the water thanks to its lack of consultation. The latest in all this drama is that Solidarity CEO Dirk Herman said today that their agreement with Gwarube is legally binding and that his movement would go to court if Ramaphosa proceeded with full implementation of the bill come the end of the month. The clock is ticking. Let's see who wins this game of political chicken. In international news, US President-elect Donald Trump began his December by threatening BRICS countries over their long-discussed plan to reduce reliance on the US dollar in international trade. He tweeted this past weekend that any nation pushing for a BRICS currency would face 100% tariffs, which are taxes imposed on goods imported from those countries into the US. He said they can go find another sucker. Recap: BRICS is a bloc including Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. It was established in 2006 to counterbalance Western dominance in global institutions. South Africa joined in 2010, and this year, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the UAE also came on board, with more states interested in joining. Now, the currency talk started last year when Brazil's President Lula da Silva revived the idea for a shared BRICS currency to reduce exchange rate vulnerabilities to the dollar. At this year's summit in Russia, Vladimir Putin unveiled a mock banknote featuring member state flags. But experts say it may never happen. With 80% of the world trading in the dollar, it's a tall order. South Africa's government also quickly shot down the idea of a common BRICS currency following Trump's tantrum. They noted BRICS members are focused on using their own national currencies for trade, not creating a new one. Recent misreporting has led to the incorrect narrative that BRICS is planning a new currency, Dirko clarified. Still, some analysts like Professor William Gumede argue that there's merit in de-dollarizing global trade. Using the dollar as the sole reserve currency leaves developing nations vulnerable to US economic policies and crises we have no control over. However, Gumede notes a full transition would take decades. It took 50 years for the dollar to replace the pound, after all. We're not the only ones at risk. Trump has said tariffs are his favorite word. He wants to use them to protect the US economy by making importing very difficult. He's already threatened to impose tariffs on the United States' three biggest trading partners, 25% for Mexico and Canada and 10% for China. But economists say this will cause huge issues, particularly for US consumers. In some lighter news, move over caviar dreams and champagne problems. There's a new luxury flex in town, ice cubes. Yes, you heard right. Woolworths, South Africa's high-end grocery darling, has added Drakensberg natural spring water ice to its shelves, and social media is losing its collective chill. For just 29.95 rands, you too can enjoy these artisanally frozen water blocks. Forget your average tray. These cubes claim to elevate your G&T game, promising minimal dilution. It's the ice equivalent of a private school, preppy, expensive, and maybe unnecessary. But hey, it's perfect for that soft life aesthetic. Some called out the new development, with one tweeting, "This is the very definition of hyperconsumerism." Others said they weren't getting their hopes up given their experience of the source product. As another person tweeted and asked Woolworths in a tweet, "Babe, did you make your ice using the Woolies still water? Because that water is terrible, my love. Burn." But most hailed the new development, saying they would not have to stop at the garage for ice after a Woolies shop, as the retailer did not previously offer ice. And as South African comedian Rory Petzer noted, Woolies aisles are already so cold that the ice won't melt in your trolley as you shop around. It's not the first time Woolies has pushed the envelope of luxury essentials. This is the brand that gave us a Chuckles-inspired beauty range and hot cross buns in February. But like always, the controversy only fuels sales. Expect those cubes to become a party essential faster than you can say Woolies aisle 3. So, will you be splurging on these status symbol ice cubes or sticking to the good old tray from Checkers? Either way, the internet has spoken and the chill moment is officially hot. Back to politics. On Tuesday night, President Cyril Ramaphosa oversaw a blink and you'll miss it cabinet reshuffle, swapping out the embattled Thembi Simelane from the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development with her colleague at the Department of Human Settlements, Mameloko Kubai. His decision may have something to do with the allegations of Simelane's involvement in the VBS Mutual Bank scandal, where 2 billion rand vanished from depositors' accounts, including poor pensioners. Simelane, the former mayor of Polokwane, allegedly received over R500,000 loan in 2016 from Gundo Wealth Solutions, a company implicated in unlawful municipal deposits into VBS. The same company was involved in securing over 300 million rand worth of questionable investments into the bank on behalf of the Polokwane municipality. Investigations have hinted that these transactions were far from legit. They appear to have been tied to a scheme where kickbacks were exchanged for large deposits made by municipalities into VBS. Now, while Simelane claimed the loan was to purchase a coffee shop in Sandton and that it was repaid, the timing of the payout she received was suspicious. It coincided with VBS paying Gundo Wealth Solutions owners over 24 million rand in kickbacks for securing municipal deposits. Now, a recent report by News 24 and the Daily Maverick also found that less than 2 years after Simelane received the contentious loan, she started to live luxuriously. The report found that her spending habits increased, with Simelane spending 569% more than her annual income. Ramaphosa's decision to reassign rather than dismiss Simelane has therefore drawn sharp criticism. Opposition parties, particularly the DA, have called for her outright removal. The DA said she does not belong in cabinet, while political watchdog Freedom Under Law expressed concerns about the message this sends on corruption and governance. Predictably, the Mkhonto Sizwe party has defended Simelane. We know where she could find a political home next if needed. Ultimately, Ramaphosa's decision was a bit of a toothless one. Do better, Mr. President. And in some faith news, it's that time of the year again when churches pull out their nativity scenes. But over in Switzerland, they've reinvented Jesus and how you confess your sins. Peter's Chapel in Lucerne, Switzerland, has replaced priests in the confession booth with an artificial intelligence Jesus who speaks over 100 languages. It's part of an installation in collaboration between the chapel and a local university that seeks to create a holy experience for people. Marco Schmidt, a theologian at the chapel, said, "We wanted to see and understand how people react to an AI Jesus. What would they talk with him about? Would they be interested in talking to him?" Now, this is not the first time AI has found itself in church. Last year, a church in Germany held an experimental sermon led entirely by a ChatGPT-powered chatbot. Maybe one day soon, the nativity will be all robots away in a digital manger. But not in France, perhaps. The Notre Dame, aka Our Lady of Paris, as the cathedral is fondly known, is getting ready to reopen to the public this weekend after 5 years. In April 2019, the world watched in horror as a fire engulfed the historic church. It cost almost $1 billion to restore, financed almost entirely by donations from around the world. The work was carried out mostly by small local businesses, often using ancient techniques. This weekend's reopening is set to be a hallowed event full of pomp and ceremony, with about 50 heads of state expected to attend. France will need this moment as it faces a political crisis. Its prime minister is expected to resign today following a historical no-confidence motion. He and his boss, President Emmanuel Macron, have managed to anger both the hard left and right in the country over next year's austerity budget. Macron keeps his job but is under pressure. Maybe some Notre Dame prayers would help. We're not so sure AI Jesus can do much. In other international news, South Korea was plunged into political chaos this week when its president declared martial law during a televised late-night address on Tuesday. He was forced by parliament to lift it within hours. According to the leader, he did this to safeguard the country from anti-state forces and threats posed by North Korea. While he did not provide details of these so-called threats, his approval rating has been in decline for several months now, and his parliament, which is controlled by his opposition, the Democratic Party, has blocked several of his political objectives. He's also been slammed for dismissing calls for investigations into financial scandals that include him and his wife. But what is martial law? According to the Brennan Center for Justice at New York University School of Law, martial law usually refers to a power that, in an emergency, allows the military to take the place of the civilian government and exercise jurisdiction over civilians in a particular area. Within hours of Yoon's announcement, he was forced to take back the order when lawmakers pressured him to withdraw it. And now he faces not only a police investigation for insurrectionist activities, but an impeachment vote on Saturday that could see him ousted. His defense minister, who played a key role in the chaotic 6-hour period of martial law, has resigned and been replaced by a retired army general who served as the South Korean ambassador to Saudi Arabia before this. An expert on authoritarianism, democracy, and South Korean politics at Michigan State University said that Yoon had declared martial law out of anger. She said he was angry and resentful of the opposition, blocking him repeatedly. But then again, I can't read his mind. Meanwhile, MSNBC opinions editor James Downey said the parallels between South Korea and U.S. politics were beyond eerie. Downey praised the South Korean Democratic Party for nipping the martial law declaration in the bud. He said that this should be a warning to President-elect Donald Trump and urged the U.S. Democrats to take a leaf out of South Korea's book. What happens now? While Yoon's party, the conservative right-wing People Power Party, has vowed to protect him from impeachment, South Korea's main labor union has called for an indefinite strike until he resigns. The 1.2 million Korean Confederation of Trade Unions have also accused Yoon of an irrational and anti-democratic measure, saying he had declared the end of his own power. So, Will he resign or will he stand his ground? In some lighter news, South Africa's snack aisle is looking a little lonelier these days. Some of our favorite items have quietly disappeared, from the breakfast staples to nostalgic sweets. Recently, Bokomo confirmed the discontinuation of Maltabella porridge and Bokomo rusks, while other iconic treats have been missing in action for years. But don't despair just yet. Sometimes public outcry has been loud enough to bring these goodies back. Here's a list of disappearing snacks that will stir your appetite, spark nostalgia, and maybe even inspire a bit of hope for a comeback. First up, Hellmann's mayonnaise. In February last year, Hellmann's mayonnaise was delisted in South Africa due to low demand and sky-high import costs. But local mayo fans were not having it. Pick n Pay took up the challenge, sourcing the creamy condiment from overseas suppliers, and now it's back on shelves in all its 800 and 400 gram glory. Second on the list are candy cigarettes. Remember pretending to be James Bond with a candy cigarette between your fingers. These sugary sticks were the ultimate playground accessory, but they disappeared when public health concerns became a hot topic. While they're not making a return anytime soon, they remain a sugary icon of childhood rebellion. And finally, peppermint crisp. It sparked panic in 2021 when rumors swirled about its potential discontinuation. Thankfully, the hysteria was just a temporary shortage, and this beloved chocolate bar, essential for peppermint crisp tart, remains on shelves. Still, we're keeping an eye out just in case. Honorable mentions, there's the Yes No bars, Steers flavored Simba chips, Lay's salt and vinegar chips, and bubble gum. And don't even get us started on Nesquik. If any of these return, expect another nationwide celebration. If there's one takeaway from this list, it is to never underestimate South African snack lovers. Whether we're signing petitions, rallying on social media, or sweet-talking local suppliers, we'll never let our favorites go quietly. Let's hope Bokomo is paying attention. Who knows, Maltabella might be the next Hellmann's. Back to some international news. Has US President Joe Biden irrevocably tarnished his legacy? On Sunday, the outgoing president announced a sweeping pardon for his son Hunter Biden, erasing convictions for gun and tax offenses and shielding him from future federal charges. With this act, Biden upended his promise of judicial non-interference and drew comparisons to Donald Trump, who famously wielded the pardon power as a political tool, issuing nearly 80 in his final hours, many to close allies. Hunter Biden, 54, was convicted earlier this year of illegally purchasing a firearm while struggling with addiction and pleaded guilty to failing to pay over 1 million rand in taxes. His lavish spending on escorts, drugs, and luxury items damaged his case and public image. Hunter was set to face the music this December. Instead, his dad pulled the ultimate presidential privilege, a full and unconditional pardon. This blanket clemency doesn't just cover Hunter's current convictions, it wipes the slate clean for any federal offenses he may have committed from 2014 all the way to 2024. This period included controversial overseas business dealings, such as his role on the board of Ukrainian gas company Burisma. Critics, especially Trump and his allies, have long accused Hunter of exploiting his father's political clout. Even after Trump's election win last month, Biden assured Americans he would not issue a pardon. But over Thanksgiving weekend, with family ties tugging at his heartstrings, he changed his mind. Biden justified his decision by claiming his son was unfairly targeted for political reasons. He said, "No reasonable person who looks at the facts can reach any other conclusion than Hunter was singled out only because he is my son." It's true that Hunter Biden's legal troubles began in 2018 with a probe launched by Trump-appointed prosecutor David Weiss. But federal judges have previously dismissed such claims, calling them nonsensical under the facts. What's next? All eyes are on President-elect Trump, who has already vowed to investigate and prosecute the Biden family in 2025. Buckle up, it's going to be a wild ride. And that's it from us at The Wrap, an award-winning product of Explain.coza. Simple news summaries for busy people. Remember to share the love. Tell your friends to sign up at explain.coza/subscribe. Till next time, goodbye from the team.